he was honestly my favorite pick of the draft, and your sixth rounder is your best pick. That's boy, what a draft. I
Hmm.
just feel like he can rush the passer, but he can also disrupt against the run game. So he's a very well-rounded player. I think the reason he fell as far as he did to the sixth round, I think, is just the athleticism. Might not be up there. Kind of like a Sorrell mentioned earlier, the fourth rounder, where okay, the technique's there, well-rounded game, but is he truly a plus athlete? That might be what holds him back. But now I think the Packers have been looking for a true complement to Kenny Clark for a while. Now they might have drafted another Georgia player a couple years ago, Devonte Wyatt, a defensive tackle. The first 2 years were pretty disappointing. Last year he actually started really well and then got hurt. And once he returned from the injury, it was a serious enough injury that he missed like maybe a month or close to 2 months.
Hmm.
And once he returned, he just didn't look the same. Like it still he might have even still needed more time off. So it was a serious enough injury. I'm hoping that with the off season, if he's good for training camp, that Wyatt can maybe contribute. But at some point, maybe Warren Brinson is that second rotational piece of defensive tackle that frees up Kenny Clark. Because yeah, I love Kenny Clark, but he is starting to. He's been on the team for so long. Eventually, they're going to need to replace him. I still think they need to complement him, though. Like I still think they haven't fully got that role yet before they can even think about replacing him. To get that number two option next to him, that they've really struggled. And again, maybe Wyatt, a first rounder a few years ago, he develops into that, and maybe Brinson is a second rounder or a sixth rounder, eventually develops into that. But yeah, I really like this pick. I mean, I would say those the Sorrell, the Oliver, the Brinson picks addressing the front seven. I I like all those picks, but Brinson might be my favorite player of those three.
All right, we got us the next pick out drafted. Michael Robinson, cornerback out of Tulane, so another defensive pick. What you feel about him?
One of the things I heard a lot of people say about him, a lot of the scouting reports, he's fast, but he is not agile. This seems like a guy that will really struggle in coverage in the NFL to keep up with quick twitch receivers and the quick movements needed. This seems like, and I think the Packers made two seventh round picks, and both seem like they're special teams only players. I would be very shocked if Micah Robinson ever actually plays snaps on defense because of his speed and athleticism. He might be really good for them on special teams as either a gunner, maybe even as a returner if he has that capacity. I think the ball skills are there, but I think it's expected that he's going to be so bad in coverage that the Packers would just never let him play defense because he just can't cover. It seems like he just doesn't have the enough quick twitch, short lateral agility to actually cover these receivers and stop them from getting open. Pure speed that really helps on special teams where you are running long distances. So if he is a key special teams contributor, then it's worth it for sure. But I'm not expecting anything other than special teams for him.
That and the last pick, John Williamson, O line out of Cincinnati, coming out of Ohio. What you feel about him, man? He like a failure, or is he gonna contribute to the team?
I think more filler, to be honest. He played tackle in college, but the Packers seem like they're not even remotely entertaining that idea because they announced him as a guard. So they clearly think you've got some traits to be a good guard. I think the best thing about him, all the scout reports say his first step is great. He gets off the line really quickly, but then he doesn't always know what to do. It seems like there's big questions about his football IQ. Is he often out of position or blocking, maybe not following the blocking schemes as he needs to? So it also seems like there's hand technique that he doesn't quite have. So there's for a guy who played so much tackle, you figure the hand technique would be there and present, but it really isn't. So I think he's another player where with that quick first step, is that a guy that is good for those linemen on special teams? So again, I think both seventh rounders they made might be more special teams picks than they are actual offense or defensive picks. The Packers special teams coordinator, Rich Bisaccia, who used to be the Raiders interim head coach at one point, it seems like he has a lot of sway on personnel. Like he's got almost as much personnel authority as head coach Matt LaFleur does. I mean, Brian Gutekunst makes the final decision, but it seems like Gutekunst talks to LaFleur a lot about which offensive players to take to a certain extent. But he
Hmm.
also really seems like Bisaccia gives a lot of input to Gutekunst on who to have on the team, who to draft, but also who to keep when it comes to roster cut downs that will help on special teams. So I could see both of these picks, Micah Robinson and John Williams, both being more Rich Bisaccia picks. And I want these guys on special teams. I think they have special teams traits that could really help our unit. I I expect for their entire rookie contracts that they're only going to contribute on special teams. You're not going to see Robertson on defense. You're not going to see Williams on offense. If they do, that's bonus. But I think the role for them is special teams players, which is nice to see the Packers actually focus on that because they used to just ignore it and special teams would always be awful. Since Basacci has got there, his coaching has made it better, but he's also been a voice in the room, kind of demanding we keep certain players just for their special teams roles. So,
So
yeah.
with these two offensive linemen and these two receivers that y'all drafted, do you feel like the Packers got zero help for Jordan Love, or you think it's a chance one of them may turn out to be a great player?
I could see both the first two picks being good. Like if Belton can get that technical refinement he needs, he's got the athleticism where he could be a potential tackle, even if they eventually just move him to guard because Jordan Morgan, who they took in the first round last year, I think he's still maybe more the plan to be the left tackle of the future. Although again, the results last year weren't great, but again,
Mm-hmm.
they started him at guard first. I think eventually, once Rasheed Walker's rookie contract is done, that's where they'll consider Morgan a tackle. I can see Belton having that similar path where if he ever gets on the line, it might be as a backup guard. Oh, a starting guard gets hurt, and he has to go in there, and then eventually, when he's had enough seasons in the NFL, we can start considering him as a tackle, which is I think their plan because they did draft him with the offensive tackle designation, so I could see him contributing. I expect Golden's going to play snaps right away. I think from that sense, like I think they have a clear role for him. They want that perimeter outside receiver, that deep threat, that kind of Christian Watson was supposed to be, but I mean he tore his ACL in week 17 last year. So I don't think you can expect Watson to contribute. You know, the timeline of the ACL tear, I mean, he'd be really hard pressed to be ready for the season. And I think they've kind of said that too. Like he's at OTAs doing the individual rehab stuff, but like they've said like he's still like 2 months away from even like thinking about strapping on pads and actually like playing football in any capacity. And like that's maybe on the optimistic side. So I think Golden is kind of a Christian Watson replacement, and that's something they could use right away, that deep threat. I just I think you could have also got other speedy deep threat receivers later in the draft because I don't think would go like they're drafting Golden to kind of be that target alpha. Like they're taking him in the first round. They expect at some point he's going to be the leading receiver on this team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the case. I just think Jaden Reed's flat out better. The reason I don't like the pick isn't even just Golden versus Burden, which I prefer Burden. I already talked about that with the production profile in part one. But it's also, I want them to unleash Jaden Reed more because right now the problem is Jaden Reed is not seeing enough targets because he's not playing enough snaps. They're constantly just having him as a slot receiver. He's only playing when there are three receivers on the field. But the few times he's played on the outside and run downfield routes, he's been good against tight coverage. He can make contested catches. He can get open in deep spots of the field. And he's not just a short area yak guy, which they seem to want to pigeonhole him in. Luther Burden, it seems like his best football comes when he's playing in the slot. So I would have loved if they drafted Burden, said, you're going to play slot primarily, and we're going to unleash Jaden Reed as an outside receiver. I think that could help the Packers take the next step. So the reason I don't like the Golden pick is it looks like they're just going to keep doing the same thing they've been doing, and I don't know if they'll truly be progression. So I think Golden will certainly contribute. I mean, if Golden can't contribute, this is one of the this is a total bust because he's a first round receiver. And again, we've talked about how long it's been since they've taken one. So certainly the Packers are expecting him. We're taking him in the first round for him to be a starter this year. I don't think Dontavian Wicks, he gets a lot of targets and he gets open, but man, the hands. So if Golden's got good hands to catch, I could see him easily beating out Wicks. And the three main receivers are going to be Golden, Jaden Reed, and Romeo Dubs. I think that's how they're probably planning for it to be this year.
I know in the division, y'all not really seeing the Bears as a threat yet. Hopefully they'll turn around. But when it comes to Detroit, obviously they was what 14-2, 15-1, 16-1, whatever games they play. You still feel like the Packers are going to be up under the Lions. I know all teams. The way Detroit history has been, do you feel like the Packers are still going to be under the, let's say, the Vikings and the Lions, or do you believe y'all be able to compete with Detroit now in the division?
I mean, man, it took forever for Detroit to win a division title, and now they've won two in a row. So what's stopping them from winning three in a row, right? Like, and I think I can hate the Lions as much as I want to as a division rival, but I got to give credit. Like, that is a very well-run team. They seem to prioritize the trenches, offensive and defensive line, and really their draft shows that. Even though like defensive tackle and guard aren't necessarily as viewed as important positions as edge rusher and offensive tackle, but their three of their first four picks were defensive tackle and two guards. So clearly the Lions, they know what their strength has been and they're going to just continue to add depth at those positions. But I guess from a rival, you don't really think they've gotten better. Like they've just really added depth pieces. Maybe the first rounder Tyreek Williams, maybe he becomes a starter on defense for them at defensive tackle and it helps them. I mean, their defense is pretty bad last year, especially after Aiden Hutchinson got hurt. So that's probably a smart pick for them. Like that, maybe that helps their run defense. Maybe that helps the defense overall. But I don't think they've necessarily gotten better. I don't really think the Packers have gotten better either. So yeah, I do still view them as behind. Like to me, in my mind, the Packers are still chasing the Lions. Who knows what the Vikings are going to be this year? I mean, I didn't expect them to be that good with Sam Darnold. I think JJ McCarthy's probably going to be better than Sam Darnold, but will he be, in his first starts, is he going to be as good as Darnold was last year? I don't know. So I could see the Vikings maybe taking a step back just with the not really rookie quarterback, but quarterback in his first year as a starter. After he didn't play a single game last year. I mean, preseason got a little bit of action, but that's where he got hurt ultimately. So yeah, no, I agree. I think the Lions are the class still of the division. I love that they made a third round pick on a receiver that's basically as bad as Savion Williams, Isaac Tesla. His career dominator rating was 14.7, which is essentially Savion Williams at 14.3.
Mm-hmm.
1.2 receiving yards, or sorry, yards per team attempt for his career. 1.32 receiving yards per team pass attempt. That's 1.25 for Williams. Like it felt like both were, the Lions have kind of talked about like he had really good athletic testing, and that's really why they're drafting him. Not a producer in college, but we're just drafting for the traits. So I think it's a bad pick, and I love that because I love when the Lions make bad picks. It makes because it feels like them and the Packers, Isaac Tesla, Savion Williams, it's basically the same guy. We like this guy for his athletic traits, but I'm skeptical to think that they can actually contribute at wide receiver,
So
at
what
least in
about
the
the
NFL. I mean,
what
they
about
barely contributed at wide receiver in college, so I really think it's hard pressed for them to make the jump and actually do something in the NFL. Sorry.
so what about Minnesota losing Sam Darnold? You don't see them as no threat, even though I don't see him as no threat, but
I mean, he had an incredible season last year. I'm a Sam Darnold hater because he's been completely awful the rest of his career. Like it's weird. Like 35 touchdowns last year. He still doesn't have a 20 touchdown season. His previous career high was like 17. So he probably seems destined to have like 20 something touchdowns with the Seahawks this year. But I think the fact that Sam Darnold did well to a certain extent, maybe that gives confidence that McCarthy could do well. Like this Darnold guy that's been awful his whole career, he somehow made it work. So McCarthy, who's a top 10 pick, the team believes in him and expects him to do well. He probably will do well under Kevin O'Connell. So I don't think we can just dismiss the Vikings. To me, the Bears are still the fourth team in the division. Like the Bears, as much as I think they made a lot of good improvements. And you could argue of the three NFC North teams, the Bears had the best off season. All the things they did on offensive line. I mentioned Drew Dalman in the first part, but getting got the guy from the Chiefs, and I can't think of his name, former Patriots. I think they traded for him mostly to be a guard. Um, they've really just added two or three starters to that offensive line, so you'll probably be able to protect Caleb Williams better. They've
mm-hmm.
added a couple pieces, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden in the draft. Again, I mentioned I really liked Burden for the Packers, so a couple moves that the Bears made that I wish the Packers would have made. So you can argue the Bears had the best off season, but they were so far behind everyone else that they're even though with the best off season, they're still fourth to me. So I ultimately how I see the division going, likely the Lions are going to win it, and the Packers and Vikings will battle for second place. I mean, last year they both made the playoffs, so that battle might not even matter, and they both might end up as wild card teams anyway, as we saw last year. But very rarely, we always see turnover year to year in NFL divisions. Like in terms of like, there's always multiple playoff teams one year that aren't the next year, and the opposite is true. Teams that didn't make the playoffs that sneak in. So I think it'll be really hard pressed for the NFC North to send three teams to the playoffs again. that very rarely happens where one division send three teams every year, year over year. Like that, you don't really see. So the fact that they did it last year likely means that it's not going to happen this year. So that battle for 2, 3 in the division might come down to like who gets a wild card spot and who doesn't. So yeah, I could not the most optimistic Packers fan coming into this year based on what they've done in the offseason. But I also think like Jordan Love really wasn't good last year. But it also comes down to he got hurt week one against the Eagles. He had that knee injury when Jalen Carter kind of twisted and pulled his leg down. Kind of a dirty play, to be honest. Like that was, and everyone was talking about how it was the field, right? Like, oh, the field in Brazil was so slippery. You do that on an American grass field, not even turf, just straight grass, where Jalen Carter's like grabbing your leg and twisting it and pulling it down. You're probably going to mess up your knee. So the I thought that was just stupid discord for people to say, "Oh, Jordan Love got hurt because of the field." Like, no, you clearly see like Jalen Carter make a dirty play. So, a great player, but that was solely unnecessary. And it seemed like the Packers were scared to trust Love, and when they did, he threw a lot of interceptions. It seems like the accuracy wasn't there. So, is this year better just because Love's healthy the whole year? I mean, maybe he's not going to be healthy the whole year, but I mean, he was not healthy for the entire season last year. So if you can at least get like 2 games where he's healthy, that's an improvement from last year because that knee seemed like that was affecting him all year. And he even talked about it late in the regular season when he started dealing with another injury. I think it was a hamstring injury or something. He
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that the knee was still bothering him too, and that might have contributed as a compensatory injury. So I think just Love not having to deal with that knee injury all year, that will help him be better and the team be better. So you could see the Packers just improve on their results last year, not because they made drastic changes to their personnel, just because Love's healthier. Because we saw, his first year in 2023, like he had a pretty incredible season. There was some luck involved. The completion percentage is pretty low, so it was really high efficiency. You knew that was going to drop, but you didn't expect this far of a pendulum swing. And you think it maybe gets back to the middle and he can improve on his season next year just because he's healthier.
So do you see Caleb Williams or the Bears ever being a threat? Let's say the next 3 years. So we know how the Bears do it. They go get Caleb probably like another two, and then after that they go if they're not winning, they go put the blame on him because that's just how they do.
Draft another guy and start all over, right? It's
So do you
what they
feel
did with
like
Justin Fields. I know you've been someone that was kind of outspoken on them drafting Caleb in the first place, and why didn't you just continue to build around Fields? And I think, man, if you gave Fields this offensive line with this many weapons, he'd probably succeed too. So I think Caleb is set up to do better this year.
uh,
The offensive line should protect him better. The problem is though he was still holding on to the ball too long. So like a better offensive line, does that necessarily mean he's going to throw quicker? Like you figured with a worse offensive line, you'd want to just get it out really quickly. So, I mean, part of that is on Caleb. Like he's got to be, and that was a big weakness for Fields. Like honestly, his biggest weakness in the NFL is probably just decisiveness, taking too long to make decisions, and thus holding on to the ball too long, taking too many sacks. Caleb Williams holds onto the ball far too long. Is it because he's not decisive, kind of like Fields, or is he constantly looking for home run plays? And he's just like that's also maybe he needs to just take the quicker, easier throws. So I still think there's a mental block for Caleb that at any point it can click and he can get that and just get the ball out quickly. But just because he can do it doesn't mean he will. So there's no guarantee. So I do to answer your question as you asked it. Yes, I think there's a chance that they could compete, but I mean, I also thought that with Justin Fields. I mean, I was on the Full Press Packers pod a couple years ago. I was definitely touting, man, I don't think we're that far off from Justin Fields being the best quarterback in the NFC North. And yeah, he's already gone. That ship sailed long ago. Um, so I believed in Fields and it never came through. So I'm skeptical to suddenly just believe in Caleb thinking it's going to come true and that the Bears are ever really going to be that threat. So I would say that it's likelier that he doesn't. And your scenario where they just get so disappointed with the lack of wins that they just eventually move on for him, and maybe he has success with another team just to really stick it to the Bears. But yeah, I think that's still maybe the more likely scenario. But I do admit, like again, I think the Bears were the best NFC North team in terms of free agency and the draft this year. And so maybe that's enough improvement that Caleb does take that next step. So I definitely think there's a chance. And the Packers shouldn't just dismiss the Bears. I mean, the Bears did beat Green Bay last year. So like, they can't, first time in how many games, but they finally got it done. But yeah, they can't look past them and think that they're just always going to be the doormat of the division because they definitely can make improvements.
yeah, but it all depends on if the Bears is one of them teams. It's like they're more. first they just need to rebuild their stadium. They just need to just build a whole nother stadium. It's like 100 plus years old. They can keep that stadium and just build somewhere else. Cause it's like Chicago ain't got all that ocean, all the property on the ocean. They can, like whatever. It's like every year they keep talking Chicago Bears want to build a new stadium. They want to build a new stadium. I'm just like, okay, we'll do it then. Like
And
that.
every year we see some other team actually announce plans for a new stadium that's not Chicago.
Exactly, man. Like just do it. Y'all got all that property on the. Let me not say too much, but basically they got all that property just sitting there. Y'all can easily just build a whole nother stadium with a practice facility and parking lot and traffic and man, whatever. But yeah, Chicago, they I give them a year or two before they trade Caleb. If they don't at least make the playoffs and win over 10 games, they're gonna trade Caleb. Another storyline where they get another player, and here we go. Like that's just how the Bears get down, man. Like they try. I think the last time the Bears tried to keep a quarterback was Jay Cutler. We see how
Yep.
that turned out.
And that wasn't even a draft pick. Like they went and signed him in free agency after they saw someone else develop him. And I mean, he did okay. He's probably the best quarterback they've had. And I mean, after that they went to Trubisky, tried that draft experiment, what a colossal failure. Man, imagine if they actually drafted Patrick Mahomes, which they could have, but they didn't. And then yeah, Justin Fields. Again, I actually thought that one was the one that was going to work, and it didn't. And yeah, so I'm skeptical to think suddenly Caleb is magically going to work.
Yeah, man, that's a whole lot of players they could have drafted.
I
Like,
mean, they should have drafted Jaden Daniels over Caleb, and I mean, I know your guest last week was I believe he was in favor of that too, even though he's a Bears fan, so he was kind of disappointed they didn't make it happen.
yeah,
Caleb actually does have a pretty good prospect score for me, but in terms of first round quarterbacks that have been drafted since Trubisky in 2017, I think Jaden Daniels has the second highest prospect score for me. The only one higher is Lamar Jackson. And now, again, I do this for fantasy football purposes, so the rushing does really matter to me, which is why Lamar does have such a high score. Um, but I thought Daniels entered the league as a more well-rounded passer than Lamar. Lamar, to me, his biggest weakness in college and the first years in the NFL, his accuracy outside the numbers was not as good as his accuracy inside the numbers, where he could make pinpoint passes downfield over the middle. But it seems like as soon as he had to throw laterally more, the accuracy was off. So there was something technically that Lamar was doing on those outside the numbers throws that I think the mechanics and the footwork eventually got better. And now you see he makes accurate passes to the outside. Jaden comes into the league last year and he was already making good downfield outside the numbers throws very accurately. So I think Jaden has a chance to be as good, if not even better than Lamar does. So man, the Bears could have taken that and they didn't. Which, as a Packers fan, I love to see. Right? Like, I'm super happy that Jaden Daniels didn't go there for Jaden Daniels' sake, because it seems like the Bears have no idea how to develop a quarterback properly, and maybe the curse of Chicago would have meant that Jaden wasn't as good as he was last year if he was in Chicago. Which is hilarious. That all I heard last year was how Caleb was like the best quarterback that's ever been set up. They had DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, then they drafted Roma Dunze right after, and like, oh man, no rookie quarterback's been better set up ever than Caleb Williams. And now the other narrative I'm hearing too is, man, if Jaden was in Chicago, he wouldn't have done as good as he did in Washington. And all offseason, all I heard was how that situation was so much better. So I don't know. I feel like, yeah, there's a chance Daniels wouldn't have developed, but it really feels like twice now the Bears have swung and missed on quarterbacks when there was a better quarterback taken after, whether it was Mahomes with Mitch Trubisky or Jaden Daniels with Caleb Williams. So I think that's part of it too. Is you know they haven't been able to develop these quarterbacks, but it also seems like they're not selecting the right quarterbacks too.
yeah, man. It just these teams when it comes to the draft, it's like hit and miss. And in your division, it's like it's been a lot of hits lately, but you don't like this Packers draft. So you don't like the Packers draft. So is it do you okay, so who you expect the Bears to draft next year? Like what position you expect the not the Bears, the Packers. What position you expect the Packers to go draft?
In the first round, I doubt they go receiver. It took this long to get one first round receiver, so I seriously doubt they do that 2 years in a row, unless like some elite prospect falls to them. In theory, they should just be looking at best player available, especially in the first round. But I said it earlier, I really feel like it's been a couple years since they've drafted a defensive player in the first round. So I think at the very least, next year's first round pick will probably be on defense. I kind of get that sense, and I'd probably be happy with that. Now, which position on defense, who knows? Knowing the Packers and how good against prioritizes the positions, likely edge rusher or corner. So if it depends on what happens with Jair Alexander. If they move on from him, I could easily see them taking a cornerback in the first round next year. So if I had to guess this far out, that might be my guess at cornerback. But I guess we'll see. Maybe they work some. Maybe they are able to keep Jair long term. I mean, it still sounds like they're still trying to trade him this year, right? Like I mean, the Dolphins are trying to trade Jalen Ramsey. Whatever, would the two teams just come together and let's just trade swap corners. Like you've had enough of the Jair Alexander drama, so take the Jalen Ramsey drama instead. At least it's different. And then the opposite for Miami, you get Jair Alexander. Like I have this weird sense that are both teams just so fed up with those players. I actually don't even think it's Miami's fed up with Jalen. It sounds like Jalen just doesn't want to be in Miami. Does he prefer to be in Green Bay? And with Jair Alexander, I'm pretty sure I think he's from the Carolinas. Yeah, because there was drama when they played the Panthers a couple years ago. It was his homecoming game, so it was Miami's not Carolina, but it's closer than it is to Green Bay. So I could see
Yeah.
Alexander being favorable. So I guess maybe a hot take prediction: does this Jair Alexander Jalen Ramsey trade happen this offseason? And if it's so, I kind of feel like the Packers are doing that for like a 1 year basis with Ramsey. Like this is just a 1 year experiment, and if it fails miserably, we're gonna rebuild our cornerback room next year, kind of like how they rebuilt their safety room in 2024. So yeah, I could if you had to ask me to guess right now, TJ, I think I'm talking myself into a cornerback next year, maybe the most likely pick at this point. Of course, the Packers could do horrible and be drafted in the top 10, and that changes everything. Really hope that's not the case though.
It might turn out to your benefit if y'all tank this year.
Maybe, and maybe like because that to be fair, the highest pick they've had recently, I think, is Rashawn Gary at 12th overall, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
And I mean, that was still quite a few years ago. Like that was like 2019, maybe
he's still in the
2019.
league.
Oh yeah, no, he's still probably the Packers' best edge rusher, to be honest.
Oh,
And
my bad, because I don't know who that was.
Rashawn Gary, he was at Michigan in college. And again, I think it was the 20. I think he was the 2019 first round pick for them because I think 2018 was not a good year. I think that was the year Khalil Mack got to Chicago. Rodgers hurt his knee week one on a Khalil Mack sack. Came back to the game, they won it, but then the season really just didn't go well, and you could tell Rodgers was that knee injury was a problem all season, and I think they just had a really bad record, and they ended up getting the 12th overall pick, and they've added Gary, and he's been one of their better defensive players to be honest. Still, with him, it's the consistency snap to snap. He makes a ton of great plays. He used to be really bad against the run. He's gotten better, but there's still times where he disappears for long stretches, but he still is one of their better players. So to your point, like getting that top 15 pick for once that they haven't had in a while, that could be the key thing that adds to defense that long term makes them better. So yeah, maybe that was the plan all along. Let's have such a horrible off season that we end up just missing the playoffs completely. It's 4D chess thinking from Gudikins. Let's purposely make a bunch of bad picks and bad moves. Nah, it's probably not that. He thinks everything he made was golden, and it's probably not. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Maybe Matthew Golden is the golden ticket for the green and gold. Who knows? We'll see, I guess.
All right, Kyle, go ahead and tell where they can find you at, man.
So I'm on Twitter at Senra Says, but I'm a contributor for three different websites. I've got Fantasy Six Pack, Going for Two, if you like the numbers after all, and the League Winners. So with Going for Two, it's pretty easy. I do a lot of live streaming during the season. Last year, I was part of the Sunday morning live stream, as well as the Monday pregame show live stream before Monday Night Football, and the Sunday mornings usually before kickoff. Typically fantasy football type streams. On goingfor2.com, you can find all my rankings, whether it's dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, the regular redraft rankings, those will get published soon. So that's how I contribute to Going for Two. At Fantasy Six Pack, I've got a new show co-hosting with Jamie Pirogue and Rahul Natarajan. It's called the Dynasty Six Pack.
Uh-huh.
It's basically just a show about dynasty fantasy football. I've really enjoyed speaking with both of them. They're actually both also Going for Two contributors, so I've known them for a while. So I knew I was getting into with them, and it's been a complete blast, and so it's been awesome to have this new show again, Dynasty Six Pack. We're live on the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, we've had a couple 2-hour episodes. We definitely like to talk a lot, as you can notice by this episode too. I also write articles for Fantasy Six Pack. We've got our, I think, just for heads up, TJ and I are recording this on the last day of May, and I believe June 1st, tomorrow, technically, Fantasy Six Pack is going to start releasing their series of team articles, a fantasy football draft article for every team. I think we're doing one every day. My contributions are to the AFC South. When I went to sign up for the spreadsheet, the NFC North was taken, so I didn't get to talk about my Packers, but still get to talk about the Texans, the Titans, man, the Jaguars. That's an interesting team to talk about fantasy wise this year. So really happy with those articles. The Texans article is done, ready to be published at some point this next week. I think by the time this episode's out, probably just a few days after this episode's released, that article will be released at the Houston Texans. I'm guessing like the third, the fourth, something like that. So check that out on Fantasy Six Pack and all those team previews, all of my AFC South articles. In season, I write what I call the goal line guide, which is admittedly a fantasy football article, but it's all about touchdowns. And that's the one thing that fantasy football people and just regular NFL people can agree on. Touchdowns matter. Touchdowns are important. And it's a weekly matchup look at different teams' offenses versus the defense they're playing. Looking at touchdown efficiency, especially inside the five, when the offense is really close to the goal line. So just trying to, again, predict on a weekly basis where touchdowns will be scored, which again, practical application for fantasy football when you're picking weekly matchups, who have the better touchdown chances. But I think just from a regular, someone who just likes to watch NFL and not play fantasy football, you can take away a lot from this article in terms of these weekly matchups. And then yeah, the League Winners is the other site that I contribute with. League Winners, we write articles, a bunch of different articles. Like there's a lot of college stuff. My role is strictly with the Packers, so I will write some Packers articles in the off season to preview the year, but then mostly weekly previews for their games every week and just previewing those specific matchups. So yeah, Fantasy Six Pack going for two, and the League Winners, the three sites I contribute on now. Thank you, TJ, for allowing me to contribute to this episode.
As y'all can see, Kyle will be busy. So, but Kyle will be back on in the future. This was
Definitely.
TJ McKinley, episode 39, part two. As y'all know, yeah, so go follow my YouTube, go follow Kyle on his articles, pages, YouTube, Twitter, social medias. Go follow my social media accounts. I see a lot of y'all starting to like my videos and comment more, so thank y'all. I appreciate it. My short videos, y'all know I'm posting music now because it's like whatever. But yeah, thank y'all for watching, and this is episode 39. Kyle, anything else you want to say?
Well, I love sports. I love music, so I love a lot of what you have to offer and contribute. So again, I'm very appreciative of you, TJ, for allowing me to come on the show.
Kyle definitely will be back on. He talking like he ain't coming back on. Kyle definitely will
Oh
be
no,
back
I
on.
definitely want to come back on for sure. I mean, if you want to do episodes about music, I'm totally down to play. I mean, I'm a musician myself, but I also love to listen to music. So if you ever do music themes episodes, like I'm totally down to join.
Okay, he just gave me idea. I wasn't even thinking that. Okay, okay, sure, man. What you into, Holla, real quick? What's your era, man? Like,
Oh boy, you see that's I can't say that real quick. So maybe that is something we save for future episode because I listen to literally all types of
yeah,
genres. Like
I'm
I will
all
listen to some
over.
hip hop and rap, but I'm a big rock and roll guy. I love rock, a lot of classic rock, new modern rock bands, but I also, especially when I'm writing articles, I like to listen to a lot of instrumental music, so a lot of classical music. And I mean, there's some rock bands I listen to that are purely instrumental. I like for that too, but I would say my favorite piece of music was composed in 1905, which is
Mm-hmm.
almost 100 years before I was born. So my taste is very, very varied, I would say, and especially era. Uh, um, you know, I guess not era specific. I'll listen to music from all sorts of different time frames.
All right. Well, this was TJ McKinley Podcast, episode 39. Thank y'all for watching, and y'all have a nice day.